There's an old story about an ass that finds a lion hide that hunters have put out to dry, and the ass puts it on and walks to the village, and everyone's afraid of him, and he is proud and pleased that he's so powerful suddenly, so he brays, and of course everybody realizes he's just an ass. And I'm not going to bray by trying to tell you I know much about the technical aspects of WordPress. Basically, I know how to use it, and I do use it for this website. I began this blog about 2 years ago when I came to Reno for a job and found out I was working for bullies, queen bees, and psychopaths. And it was a miserable job, and I lasted about a year. But when I got done, I was like kind of traumatized by it all, and I started doing some research, and I discovered that workplace bullying is really a global phenomenon. Most industrialized countries have adopted regulations or laws directly addressing it, but the US has not. So I started doing entries for the blog. As you can see, I've got a huge body of work at this point. And at one point, somebody called me up and asked if I would do a chapter for their book. We're doing a book on workplace bullying. She was a consultant in California, and I said yes, and I did the chapter, but then I thought, why don't I just do the book? So that's when I did the book. The blog really has evolved into a marketing tool for the book and also for my services. I get calls from people all around the country, often people who are in crisis, and I charge a fairly low fee for an attorney to talk to them, usually just for 45 minutes. So that's the book. Now, I have a history in publishing. I actually have written a couple of books the traditional way. Some of you are young and you don't realize, but at one point publishing was really very difficult to get into in a traditional way. I had a friend who was a brilliant political scientist who wanted to write a book on third-party political parties. He couldn't find a publisher. He never wrote the book, which was a big loss, I think. And the reason is you couldn't get to readers without a publisher. And also, I wrote 2 books for CQ Press. Fortunately, they called me, and one was a desk reference on the American criminal justice system, one was a desk reference on the American court system. They sold them all around the world. Each one cost about $150. But I made approximately that much, and they made approximately that much, which was pretty typical. Now, today we are in the midst of a revolution. Most of us know that. Everything's changing. Publishers are no longer the gatekeepers to reading audiences. We're in the midst of an ebook revolution, and I can't see any downside to that, personally. I think that's a great thing. According to the American Association of Publishers, nearly a quarter of all books sold in 2012 were ebooks, up from 17% in 2011 and 0.5% in 2008. So you can see how this market is growing tremendously. However, authors still face a lot of the same problems they used to, because more and more ebooks are being published of varying quality, a lot of them of very poor quality, but it's hard to get people to see your ebook, which is high quality. And my ebook really is the equivalent of the book I did for CQ Press. It's got a lot of research. You know, I'm a former professional journalist. It's well written, I think, and it's a lot of value for the money, which is very cheap, which is $9.99. So it's important to me that I can get that, the fact that I have a quality book that really can help you into the minds of readers. One thing I've discovered is that WordPress can direct potential readers, potential buyers to your book. It's an extremely effective way of doing that. And the issue about WordPress is it showcases the quality of your work. I do approximately 1 article a week, and I often follow case law and stuff like that. And I write with an attitude. I'm very much pro-worker, and I'm, you know, I guess you'd say I'm kind of a liberal Democrat in the way I approach things. And I try to put a little humor in too. But I think that when people read my articles, they see this is a serious person who has a lot of knowledge about this, and you know, this book would be potentially useful to me. One of the story that I wrote that has got literally probably thousands of views is a story about OSHA. It's very kind of obscure. It's the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, but it's critically important to HR people and to you know, employers all over the country. And I can tell you that for a blog like mine, and maybe for a blog like yours, it's important to keep up with what's going on. It's important to be like a pseudo-journalist, to cover your field. If something big happens in my field, employment discrimination, workplace bullying, I will write a story about it. Maybe not the next day, but I will write a story about it, and it will be very authoritative. So my blog demonstrates my expertise in this kind of niche area, admittedly. But if people need my services, they really need my services, and this is something that will convince them it might be worth plunking down a few bucks to talk to me. I'm adding this simply because it's kind of a crazy thing, but apparently I'm one of only 3 or 4 judges in the entire country who writes a blog. I wrote a little article about it this week. There are technical, ethical rules that sort of discourage judges from doing this, but I carefully skirt these rules and have managed to avoid sanction up to this point. So anyway, the point that I want to make about this is I started with a blank page like all of you. I wrote authoritative articles. I don't think my blog is that much to look at. I mean, it's sort of like Wikipedia. The design is nice. It's standard WordPress. But what has really captured the attention of people, I think, is the quality and content of the blog. And to me, that's what it's all about. I like to go on a blog that looks pretty, but frankly, for me, Pinterest is of limited interest. After a while, it's just a bunch of pretty pictures, and that's the way I feel about it anyway. The funny thing is, when I started this blog, the world sort of came to my doorstep. I was recently interviewed by Business Week magazine. I have been contacted by radio shows, TV shows, and I even got a call from a guy called John Bronson. Has anybody ever heard of him? Yeah, somebody has. He's an English author who wrote a book called The Psychopath Test. He also wrote the book Men Who Stare at Goats. And he called just to talk to me about workplace bullying. So it's amazing how, you know, there's a big world out there. It's amazing who comes to this, my little corner of this world. And as I say, I think the key is to always maintain a high level of quality. If you don't have time to write a blog thing, don't waste people's time by just writing something so you have something up there. Anyway, I could tell you there's a lot of different things I've done as a result of this blog, mostly because people have contacted me. But I mentioned that I was contacted by Tick Segerblom, who's one of the premier politicians in Nevada, and asked to be an expert witness on workplace bullying before the Nevada legislature. So here are some of the tips that I have found that have been very useful to me in creating really dynamite content for the blog. I am a former journalist, so it's easy for me to emulate a journalist. However, it's not hard for anybody to, in the sense that you should be the expert in your subject matter area. You demonstrate that expertise by following events and by commenting on them. If you're selling kale, for example, you should be writing about pesticides, or you should be giving your reader content and a reason to come back to your blog. A number of my articles have been reblogged and retweeted, or tweeted rather. This has brought a lot of people to my site. You can tell when you look at the analytics that Monster.com started a sort of discussion thing based upon my website. So the idea is the best publicity you can get is free publicity, and all of these things have helped bring readership to my site, and importantly, to sell my book and my consulting services. I think it's important for me to write good tags for my posts. For example, I've written about, remember the Penn State University pedophile coach? That was a key case of failure of management. You know, he was essentially a bully, but anyway, I wrote about him. But the point is, you write, I would put his name in as a tag. That's an obvious thing. But I would put a long list of tags like pedophile, coach, Penn State, and all of these tags get picked up by search engines and direct. I've seen a tremendous increase in search engine traffic to my site. My site is listed on Wikipedia. That's been a great thing for me. There's a huge segment about workplace bullying, and I get a constant stream of people from Wikipedia. There's a Wikipedia entry on almost everything. If there isn't one in your area, you can make one, and it's a tremendous traffic generator. My articles are all automatically published on Facebook and LinkedIn. That's a no-brainer. And as I said, I have a kind of a point of view. There are a bunch of sites that focus on workplace bullying in particular. I have a point of view that's different from a lot of them. One of the key things I did as an attorney, a group had been in existence since 2000 and was trying to get a law passed on a state-by-state basis. I don't think anybody ever looked at the law before I did. And I looked at the law, and it was just an awful law, and it had terrible impediments to actually ever winning. So I did an analysis on my website of the law, and this year the law was changed, and I'm sure personally, I have no doubt it's because I took an interest in that. Now, so the key for me is I don't try to play it safe. I try to be out there about what I think. I try to back it up. I do get comments from people who don't necessarily agree with me, but I tend to not get much spam, or I don't get a lot of people saying die, things like that. So now, as I say, a blog is a marketing engine for my ebook. Now, when I did my 2 books for CQ Press, I was paid a substantial advance, and I negotiated a 16% royalty, which is pretty high, and I've never seen a penny of the royalty, of course. I learned that publishers are like baseball teams. There's never a profit. You don't get the royalty until there's a profit, and so any amount of money that was earned by the book somehow was eaten up by their expenses. Now, those books cost $149 each. This book costs $10. And I think I'm going to make more on this book than I did on those. And I think I'll do it probably, I think I'll make back, I'll make the equivalent of the advance that I got from CQ in about 2 years. And after that, it's all gravy. So I think it's this is a good thing for anyone who's got a blog to think about. It's a great marketing tool. Now, of course, it's not going to be a good marketing tool if you write a book that's got full of typos and looks amateurish, and you know, is not good value. I've actually had one book returned, so now I know they can do that. But the thing is, you have to have good quality. So if that's not your forte, you need to hire a copy editor, you need to hire a graphic artist, things like that. And I would show you some of this stuff. One of the important things to me is really it's really important to me what I started out to do, which was to influence public opinion on the issue of workplace bullying and to get a national response to this problem, just like they have in Europe and Australia and Canada, and we don't have one. And so I've joined with the National Coalition, actually co-founded it, that is asking President Obama to come up with a federal strategy. I'd click on it, but it's kind of boring. And basically, it's just, we've got like 10,000 signatures at this point. I mentioned I've gotten a lot of free press, really. The article in Newsweek, I don't know if I can do that. I'm probably going to screw everything up. But the article in Newsweek mentioned my book and my blog. So I found that this has been a very valuable marketing tool. And the thing that really drove me to do it was my passion for this issue, which is totally genuine. I empathize with people who call and need help because I feel like I've been there. And it's just made a tremendous, I had some impact in that way. And it wouldn't have happened without the WordPress, which I began, you know, I've really not spent any money on it, which perhaps shows from the website, I'm not sure. But at this point, I feel like I've reached a point where I have to start thinking about doing more. Maybe I've reached the level of my technical expertise, so I am at this point thinking about doing more. But I'm also thinking about writing more books, and I actually have one in the pipeline. If I had known how easy it was, I probably would have done this years ago. So I've kind of sped through my talk because everybody else felt like they didn't have any time. So let's see what else. The interesting thing about being a judge and having a blog site is there are ethical rules about judges can't comment on cases and things like that. But it's amazing to me that there's only a handful of judges in our entire country who have chosen to blog. And to me, it shows you, it's symptomatic of the fact that the judiciary is having so many problems today, because nobody knows what the heck they do. They don't understand, you know, what judges do. People don't want to pay for courts. There's a crisis in our civil justice system, and part of it is that judges and people in the system are afraid to talk. So I don't know if there will be any adverse impact now that this survey was done. It was just published like 2 days ago, so I may go home and find something on my answering machine about, "You're fired." We'll have to see.
Patricia, do you sell the books right from your blog?
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to mention. You know, it's really kind of revolutionary because I don't think there's ever been a technology that has allowed an author to find readers and readers to find authors in quite this way. I have the medals for Amazon and Barnes & Noble on my blog. I get far more sales through Amazon, by the way. I also sell through Smashwords, which I don't even advertise, and I get sales through Smashwords. But in the past, it's just never, I don't think there's ever been quite this, the ease of finding your audience that there is today, and vice versa. I mean, people who want a book on bullying can easily find, you know, dozens of books, really.
So if I click on an icon on your site and buy,
It'll go right to Amazon, go right to my book. So the Barnes & Noble is starting up a new publishing effort, but Amazon is definitely the big seller in this market.
Patricia, I think one thing what say Reed said in the last session, she talked about function over form. I think you're an example of that.
Yeah. To me, it's all about content. I mean, it should look good, but if the content's not there, I mean, the old stereotype of the pretty girl who doesn't have a brain, that kind of thing. So to me, it's all about content.
Ready for questions?
Sure. Anybody have a question?
Question?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I'm going to make you the...
I'd like to know, how did you decide to set your price at $9.99 as opposed to some other price?
Well, the Amazon pricing structure, if you, I believe I get like $7.47 for every book I sell at $9.99. If I went over that, it would be a smaller percentage. And when I looked at the competition, most of the competition for ebooks is selling at or below $9.99. Most of the competition is actually below $9.99. So you can't ask for a higher price for your book than all of the competition, and you have to do that market research. Technically, if I had published the book as a hardcover, I have no doubt it would have sold for at least $30. So, you know, you make a decision. But for me, it's all a part of the mosaic, really, the blog, the consulting services, and the, you know, the book. And for consulting, I do get emails from all over the country, and I email them back and I say, look, I can do 3 things for you. I've got a free blog with lots of information. I sell a very inexpensive ebook, or I will be happy to talk with you, but my fee is X. And, you know, depending on what stage of crisis they're in, they'll pick the one that fits them. But I usually do it payment in advance on PayPal, although I've never had a problem, so I don't know. I don't know if that's even necessary.
Hold on.
I have another question. The title of your book it's quite catchy, and it's almost like pop culture kind of title. But I'm getting the impression that the content of your blog is more academic.
Well, I don't think it's possible. It's possible that might be my bent, to be a little more like that. But I do. I think the thing about my blog is the articles are longer than most blogs. You know, that's true. I think a lot of my audience are legal professionals and people who are in some way involved in this area, as well as people who need help. And I'm sure that, like, I'll put the actual case name on a tag, and people look for cases. So I get a lot of feed that way. Well, thank you.
More
Everyone?
questions?
Our time's up?
Time's up except for questions.
Oh, okay.
Additional. You know, one thing you're saying, Patricia, is that the combination of WordPress, the combination of your content, the content of your book are all working together to establish yourself as an authority in your field, and that's why you're getting recognition, and that's why you're selling more books.
In just 2 years, I think I have established myself as a real authority in this field, which is why I'm getting calls from the media. So I've, of course, in my distant past, I actually edited 3 books on domestic violence, and I've worked in the domestic violence field. So really, workplace abuse is kind of a natural, because in my opinion, it's all on the same spectrum of abuse. It starts with child abuse and ends with elder abuse, and workplace abuse is somewhere in the middle. Oh, somebody, yeah. I
Yep.
can hear you.
Talk louder. Talk louder.
Hello.
Hi.
That's really loud. Well, I just wanted to thank you for the interest in that field. I think there's a lot more that's been going on that's often just swept under the carpet. But I was thinking about the military in particular, sexual harassment, where according to the chain of command, you have to complain, you can only complain up through the chain of command, where so often they're the abusers, either just bullying or sexual harassing or whatever. And I hope to gosh there's some plan to change that?
Well, it's interesting that when I started this sort of campaign, it's interesting how WordPress can spread the word. Because I started this thing, and really there had been sort of an ossified movement to do a state-by-state law. And it's all shifted, I think, to the idea now that other countries provide protection. Why doesn't the United States? And we deserve the same level of protection as Canadians or Australians. So I really think it used to be that one voice couldn't be heard over the fray. There was all the commercial interest drowned out individuals. I saw that, by the way, when I did research on sexual violence. There was an ordinance by Catherine McKinnon that was very interesting, but nobody ever heard of it because the pornographers poured so much money into this thing. But there's sort of been a sea change because a clear voice, a reasonable voice, people can hear it now, whereas before I think it was a lot harder to get the message out. So.
Another question?
Oh, I have a two-part question. What came first, your book or your blog? And what do you attribute the additional media attention to, your book or your blog?
Gee, it's hard to know. Definitely the blog came first. As I mentioned, I was contacted by a CEO of a company in California who asked me to write a chapter for her book. And I wrote the chapter and I thought, gosh, I think there's probably a market for, I think I have a big advantage because I'm in a niche kind of thing. I'm an attorney with special expertise, but anybody can have a niche blog. You could be, I know somebody who knows an awful lot about herbs, and she's got the same kind of niche. I mean, she's an expert. So anyway, the book followed the blog, and I have to say, the blog was a tremendous help in doing the book because I had written dozens of articles, and they were easy to sort of input into the line of the blog. So you can also think of a blog like that in a way. Insofar as the attention, I think people, journalists are looking on the web for experts, and I got a call from somebody at some local station like KDK something or other, and she didn't really know anything about me. She had seen my blog, and she was trying to find out who I was. She didn't even know I was in Reno. So sometimes I think they're just looking around for somebody, and the blog was a good thing. The blog, you know what I think of though? Sometimes things, opportunities just come your way, and that's happened to me many times in my life. But if you're not prepared at the time to take the opportunity, then you missed it. But so for me, I think I was preparing to do something like this, and the opportunity came my way when I encountered this hideous job, really, where I was working for sort of a borderline sociopath. So I say borderline just to be charitable.
How many of us are already self-published and generating income with your book? Few. Awesome. How many are thinking or actively working on your books? Awesome. For today, tomorrow, or at least today, we've got Patricia here. Gene Hammett has written his book. I've written a book. We're all making money. You can too. So.
And I'm finding I'm making more and more money every month. I mean, I don't know why, but I have no idea really. I just look at the statements and go, wow. It's hard to believe, like, people all over the country are buying, an ebook on my website. So it's just been kind of fun.
Good. Patricia Barnes, everybody.
Thank you.